And good evening and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to our second box session of the evening. We're coming to the end of season 1 and we've just had an amazing chat with the lovely alumnus, Miss Hannah Wisdish, who's very high up in the Spectrix organization. However, the evening's talk is going to be finished by the sensational Mr. Nick Jones. Nick was an alumnus from one of the very first ever ensembles that we used to run, and he's gone on to have a superstar career as CEO of Serious About International Trade, and in fact, I'll let him talk to you about everything that he's done. And he really joins the link between music and success very nicely. Just a quick reminder that if you want to ask any questions to Nick, or if you want to reach out to Nick, Stu's going to be managing the chat box, and so by all means put some questions in there. Hopefully Nick, Stu will put in some connections of how you can get in touch with Nick. And also, if you can just remember to keep your mics on mute, and we'll have a super lovely session. You'll have to forgive me if we've got slightly interrupted internet. I'm in France and the signal seems to be a little bit dubious. Comme ci, comme ça, as Hannah would tell me. Right, ladies and gentlemen, good evening to Mr. Nick Jones. Hey, Nick.
Good evening.
Yeah, it's lovely to catch up with you,
hey,
man.
John, how are you doing? Well, a very long time. We bump into each other every now and again, John, but I think the last time we played together was probably at least 15 years.
15 years ago. We've got kids on this call who are not even 15 yet.
Yeah, it's nuts, isn't it?
So if you would, Nick, if you could start off with just telling the listeners what you do now, who you are, the sort of things you do.
Yeah, sure, no problem. So I'm Nick. As John said in the intro, I was a member, I think it was called the Cedar Youth Jazz Orchestra back in the day, like 22 years ago, before Emmy
Jo and Hot House.
Emmy Jo after that, yeah. So I never actually made it to Hot House. It was before that happened. Wow, it was a long time ago. So it's really great to be connecting with you again. What I do now, I've had what a ride over the last kind of 20 years. I have the great privilege now to work with lots of different businesses in lots of different industry sectors. And I'm sure we'll talk a little bit more maybe about kind of the journey to get here. But I'm working at the moment, and what I really enjoy doing is commercial strategy and working as an investor as well in lots of different businesses across tons of different sectors. So manufacturing and tech and marketing and all sorts of different things.
I think that's amazing. And actually, you know, the last time we had a quick coffee when we were at Bear in Derby, you know, you were telling me how you did a lot of work originally over in the Middle East, but also you've got great connections with Nepal. I mean, you're really an international sort of globe-trotting type guy. Are you calling in from the UK at the moment, or have you...
I'm sat here in my home in sunny Lincolnshire, so firmly feet on the ground in the UK. Actually, lockdown's been a delight from that point of view. Been able to just enjoy a bit of home comfort for a while.
Amazing.
Yeah, you know, I attribute a lot of that sort of international stuff. I've been all over the place in the last 15 years, probably worked in about 100 countries, both professionally and for sort of philanthropic and charitable work as well. So you know, it's been a bit of a whirlwind. But what's phenomenal, when I talk about it to friends and family, I always think and attribute all of that back to some of the experiences I had in music. Yeah. So actually, when you reached out and said, do you want to come and chat? Because so much of it with some of the other bands that I play, foundation music.
Yeah. It's amazing, isn't it? And like the journey to get here, you know, everybody thinks it's like you start here and you go there, but actually it's like a continual journey and it changes, doesn't it? Through, you know, I know you do a lot of philanthropy now and you did a lot of international trade. If you've got a few minutes, maybe you could tell the listeners about, you know, how it all started. Because I remember you as a double bass player. You know, really talented, and euphonium, you know, ridiculously good on the euphonium. But maybe if you could tell them what school, university, whether you did university, whether you found that a good experience, not doing it or doing it, that would be great.
Yeah, cool. So, yeah, wow, euphonium. I was a euphonium player when I first met you. Yeah, you were taking a band on a Saturday morning, right? Do you remember that? And it was actually you that told me that I should pick up the double bass. I think I was 14, and there happened to be one lying around at school. I went to John Port School in Etwall, just outside Derby, and so I picked it up and kind of got involved. That was really good. But yeah, so the journey. Yeah, I didn't go to university. When I was at school, I had this idea that I wanted to be a professional euphonium. I was a little bit ambitious. Being a solo euphonium player isn't really kind of one of the top musical roles that you could strive to get into. So I kind of left school, and I was going to take a gap year and play a load, and I got a load of lessons up in Manchester, and I thought, this is it. I'm going to go and study at the Royal Northern, etc., etc. And then kind of halfway through that year, I kind of thought that I better get a job and just part-time and earn a few pennies, because I felt a little bit lazy outside of practice time. So I did, and that was purely by chance. I was talking to somebody who knew somebody else who wanted a bit of help. He worked across Europe in industry, and I got involved like a couple of days a week working with him. I got to go to France. I got to go to a load of factories in the UK and meet some customers, and that was kind of my first taste of business and sales. And it was a really small company, so it was a bit of everything really, but really great kind of eye-opening experience that led me to deciding actually maybe music wasn't the career for me, and I enjoyed the business and the travel and everything else so much, and maybe I wanted to pursue something in that. So that was the end of my university ambitions. I didn't go, much to the disgust or the despair of my parents and my sister at the time. So a couple of years later, I was still working part-time. I kind of thought, well, I suppose I better get a full-time job really. I wrote a CV and I threw it up on the internet on some job site. Probably doesn't exist anymore, I don't know. And I got a call from a guy called Mark, and Mark gave me 3 grueling interviews, and I got my first job as an export sales manager for an engineering company, a British engineering company, small business. And wow, what an education. So from 20 to 27, I spent 7 years traveling to, I think, 85 countries, doing deals, learning how to do deals, learning how to do business in almost every conceivable circumstance, really not having a clue what I was doing, just figuring it out with some great mentors and some great support from the business. And I always think of that as my university, my degree. And we probably don't have time tonight, but there are some really cracking stories around that, and some really, really quite heartening stories as well, and particularly related to music. I've had great opportunities to sit with some really phenomenal musicians in some really strange places and jam on the veranda. Some of the best memories actually. What happened next? I left that role. I kind of got to a point, bit of a cliche, but I kind of wasn't really that fulfilled anymore. There wasn't really anywhere for me to go. And I left the business with Mark, with the guy that originally employed me. And we started trading in our back bedrooms, and we thought, you know what, let's make a go of it. We found some suppliers from our previous industry, and we started doing business. And that was kind of the start of where we are today. And fast forward 10 years, we got lots of different companies and businesses all around the world, mostly in the Middle East, in America and Europe. And it's been a roller coaster. It's a complete roller coaster, and none of it was planned. It happened to me. Wow, when I think about it.
Yeah, man. And it is amazing, isn't it? To think that, I like to think that music gives you those skills to get on with people and communicate with people. And, a good friend of mine, Elved, who's on the call today, he always says to me, surround yourself with people who are going to make you better, who you want to be better for. And, you know, I think that's part of that mentoring thing, isn't it? You know, at our bands now, we're really keen on making sure that the slightly older kids mentor the younger ones. And that goes all the way through. That probably echoed with your, you know, with your experience. Is that about fair to say?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, funny, John. Yeah. So you'll remember when I was playing bass with you. I was in a quartet, right? I can't even remember what it was called now. Midnight Blue, that was it.
Midnight Blue with George
Josh
Hogg.
Blackmore and George Hogg and John Bailey. Do you remember that? And so those guys, as you probably know, all went on to like study at the academy or somewhere and be pro musicians. And I didn't. And they were they were always that one step, or probably more than one, to be fair, ahead when it came to playing, you know. But what I realized is that's kind of cool. That's okay. And that experience, being surrounded by those guys who were just that level up, well, it was phenomenal. It made me kind of realize then that, you know what, it's okay. I can step up and play and be included and contribute just as much to this kind of this group as they are, and they can. That was such a great experience. I've forgotten about that.
It is really cool because, you know, Josh Blackmore is, you know, one of the UK's greatest drummers at the moment, and we still will put his website in the chat box in a second. George Hogg, one of the greatest trumpet players in the country at the moment. We spoke to Lauren a couple of sessions ago with the Vox Talk, and John Bailey is just a phenomenal piano player. All of these guys, and you included on the bass, were killer. In fact, I remember you turned up with the first ever stick bass. Do you remember the electric stick bass?
I remember it breaking in the gig, John. Yeah. I remember it going bang in the cafe in Dada or whatever it was called at the time.
It was. And, you know, to be fair, we've always worked really well, and you work amazingly well with lots of different partners. You know, one of the things, you know, you do in business is you learn to get on with everybody. And it's a little bit like that in music. You know, we worked really closely with Derby Jazz and M Jazz, and they supported us with workshops. And actually, I think that was, you know, we found the Dada connection, Derby Dance. And it was in the middle of that piece, your bass just went and snapped.
Folded in two, didn't it? I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's quite nice. I mean, because, you know, it teaches you that you've got to carry on. So have you got any really other, you know, good life lessons that you've picked up along the way? Things that you'd share in your mentoring?
There's so many things, aren't there, John? But, you know, back to the music connection again, there are a couple of things that really stand out. And one of them, you touched on it, and that is the relationships and the ability to build relationships. And so many of the little fun memories, when I think back, you kind of don't realize how much they impact you and impact your ability to, you know, grow and be a person in the future. So I remember one instance particularly, I think we were at Hardwick Hall, was it? And we were, or somewhere, it was a property, we were playing outside and we had a break, and you got up to a bit of mischief. And I think you put cling film over a few mouthpieces and that sort of thing. And, you know, I played in so many bands at that point, and what that kind of experience, you know, it was a great laugh. But what that experience kind of shows was that you don't have to take it all really seriously to produce great things. And it's kind of, I think it's a great leveler to realize that, you know, you can be yourself and you can have fun, but you can still achieve and grow and do great things at the same time. To the question though, the relationship side of things is really important. All of my businesses, most of my companies work through channel. So that's third-party companies in overseas countries. We've got maybe 500 of them around the world. And they operate solely on our ability and our team's ability to build and foster and maintain really good working relationships with those people. And that's a learned skill. And, you know, cooperating with fellow musicians in small quartets and in big bands and with other organizations all the way through that musical journey. Wow, such a valuable lesson, and to kind of help to shape the way that you form relationships. And I think expression shouldn't be taken away from it as well. Music's really expressive, right? And again, learning that expressing yourself in whatever way you're comfortable expressing yourself, and learning that that's okay, again, really contributes to that ability to and put yourself in so many different situations in business now, for me particularly, and build those great relationships. It's not all the big business clinical nonsense that so many people talk. Sometimes it's often just about two people having a conversation and coming to an agreement, most of the time, in fact. The other thing, the final thing, is confidence. I wasn't a confident kid at all, very quite introverted, I think, and I attribute the change in that, because I'm fairly outgoing now, to music and the opportunities in music to be in front of people and be with people and be valued as part of a group of people. And that was quite transformational, actually, over those kind of mid-teen to mid-20s kind of years.
I mean, it does have that ability to nurture, doesn't it? Music, nurtures children and or young people and their developments. And I think you're dead right when you say, people can take themselves a bit too seriously in a lot of different fields, can't they? A lot of people I meet, it's very straight down to it, and we get this done. And actually, we're just humans at the end of the day, and the ability to connect and have a smile and a giggle about that's really important.
Yeah, absolutely.
Eleanor's asked a little question. Eleanor's got a trombone, a lad who plays trombone, Daniel. Nice to see you again, Daniel. A brilliant young trombonist on the way. So, send me your euphonium way. Do you still make time to do any playing at all for pleasure? And if so, how? Because I know you do a lot of philanthropy as well as, the business mentoring. Does it exist anymore?
Yeah, it absolutely does. I don't play with any groups or anything anymore. I'd actually love to. I'm kind of thinking about doing that. But I play really regularly for myself at home. Interestingly, not so much the euphonium and not so much the bass anymore. I play the piano a lot now. And it's not in here anymore, but I actually play the didgeridoo a lot, which sounds a bit crazy, right? But it's one of the most therapeutic things that I found to play. I was in Arnhem Land in Australia a few years ago, and I had the privilege of meeting this phenomenal Aboriginal didgeridoo player, and he took me to his shop, and he made me a didgeridoo, and the sound quality is out of this world. It's just such a nice thing. You know what? After a bit of a stressful day, coming home and spending 15 minutes, it's crazy and everybody laughs, but it's the most therapeutic thing.
Wow, man. I'm going to have to, there's a Christmas present in the offing there for Eleanor to get Daniel. Let's see if we can get our first didgeridooist in band. I'd love to have a Hot Shots didgeridooist.
Brilliant.
Which would be really good.
But it's a serious point, though. Playing for pleasure and playing to kind of for yourself, I think it's really important. And through, I'm kind of fairly chilled out these days, but over the last sort of 10 years building the businesses, and I've sold my main company and done all sorts of things. That journey was pretty stressful, and all the way through that, the great leveler and the great kind of expressive, the way that I expressed myself was through playing for myself. Yeah. Even if it was 5 minutes a day, it brings you back down a little bit.
That's good, man. And a couple of questions just to start wrapping it up. But the first one, actually is from Elved, who was, to be honest, a lot of us work for ourselves. We're quite driven in our industry, musicians, yourself, you set up your business. Some people get a little bit, they're apprehensive of setting out on setting up their own business. Do you think they should be in today's climate, or do you think they should just go for it?
Good question. So many different answers, but I'm a great believer in following your intuition and believing in your gut and believing in yourself. There's a lot of talk around about the climate and recession and and all of this kind of thing, but fundamentally good ideas, there's always a place for them in the world, and people always spend money, and business always spends money. And did you say he's setting up to be a musician or a music teacher? What's the business?
No, so I mean, we have a lot of kids who are thinking, do I really want to do university? Do I want to do an apprenticeship? Have I got a great idea? Should I set myself up in business? And we care about trying to find pathways for the kids that are with Hot House at the moment. And actually, if it really helps if somebody out there says, no, you can do this. Be brave. If you think you've got a great idea, surround yourselves with the right sort of help, the right sort of people, the sounding boards, put yourself in a good environment. That's what we feel. But you've got 500 or so businesses that you've been involved with over, around the globe. What's your take on it?
My take is that there is no right answer to what way you should go. And I think everybody's journey, everybody's experience is different. What I said at the beginning, I believe in following your intuition and doing what you believe is the right thing for you, which parents who are wanting kids to go to university might not all love. Maybe, I know my parents didn't like that kind of idea so much. They're a bit more traditional, but I didn't go to university, and I've done okay. And I think it's more about following your passion and your gut and your instinct than the prescribed path. And you know what? It's also, and it's really important to say, I work with a lot of startups and entrepreneurs and people like that. It's really important to say that starting a business isn't always actually just about getting rich and making loads of money. I know lots of people who have started businesses, have run them for a couple of years, they haven't worked, or they've decided to stop them, and they've decided then to go on to bigger and better things that otherwise wouldn't have been possible had they not done it. So I think it's something that really it's as much about learning and development and education for yourself as it is about the end game, that is the lifestyle or the money or whatever it is that you're trying to achieve. So
great.
My advice is just go.
Yeah, sage advice, man. Because there's always something good in everything. Even if it doesn't work out, you learn so much on the journey. Stu's asked that. He said, obviously you've done an amazing amount of travel. Have you got a top place where you think everybody should go and check it out? Used to be the Middle East or Australia. What would you say?
It depends what you're into. I love the Middle East. Actually, it's a very misunderstood part of the world. I've got great friends there. I spent an awful lot of time there, and it's a phenomenal place to visit if people get the chance. I love, one of my favorite countries in the world is India, because culturally, it's a bit of a cliche, but culturally, the sights, the sounds, the smells, the music, the food, everything is it's just phenomenal. But more than that, I think the cultural values kind of really echo through in day-to-day life in those parts of the world, and I really enjoy spending time in rural India and Nepal, as you mentioned earlier. Quite a bit of time there, and it's really, again, it's very leveling, very grounding. My guitar, he was a singer for a band called an Irish folk band called Spud. Really not that well known. They've had a couple of albums, and I had the great privilege of sitting on the portico with this guitarist about a month before he died, and having a jam session, and that was just such a great experience. Everywhere, I don't think there's a favourite, John. Everywhere in the world has something different to offer. Go everywhere and soak it all up and learn as much as you possibly can.
Very cool, very cool. And just the last little bit is going to be like favourite memories. Now, obviously for me, the bass snapping on a gig was, quite high up there. But actually my favourite memory was, and you might not remember, but we had a quick call and you were over in Nepal and you just said, "Oh, John, I've just got to go. There's a hand grenade being thrown over the side and there's a civil war kicking off." And even though there was like turmoil going on, you were the nicest, kindest, you most polite, you cared about everything. Have you got like a really nice memory of when we were doing music together?
Oh, I'd forgotten about that. It was a pressure cooker bomb. The Maoists in Nepal set up a pressure cooker bomb. I remember that. Favorite music memories. Oh, wow. There are so many. John. I love that. The one I talked about earlier, the cling film on the mouthpieces thing. That really sticks in my mind. That was brilliant. So much fun. One particularly. So many great people. Yeah. Wow. It's just great.
It's good, man. And, I really want to thank you on behalf of everybody here just for giving up your time this evening. It's been really lovely to catch up. And, I'm sure we'll be in touch again. If anybody would like to get in touch with you, I'm assuming it's okay for them to add you on LinkedIn and say a quick hello. And, you know, if you've got any questions out there, you know, any of them about anything that Nick might have done, please send them through and we'll make sure that he gets a copy of them. And that's it for this evening. So thank you very much for giving up your evening, everybody. And we'll look forward to seeing you all next week. Thanks again, Nick. See you all soon. Bye now.